Hello, welcome to my channel. Right so here. Okay, as usually I'm gonna sketch. Okay, I'm gonna use this synthetic brush. I got three brushes here. This two and this big one. I got charcoal powder and pastel powder. I got this charcoal pencil. This is medium, and this is pastel stick. Okay, and of course a kneaded eraser, which I stick to the end of one brush and I mold like this to erase. Okay. Let's start with some charcoal and let's start just sketching just like it's a regular just pencil. And first thing I'm doing is establishing just the overall shape. I check out and I see the position of the whole head on my paper. Okay, that's good. I think that's good. Now I'm gonna add a bit of details, like the position of the eyes. I'm squinting down my eyes and I see that everything is darker here, like this. Like I'm seeing just a couple of, dark or black glasses. Okay. Here is the eyebrow and the eye here. Eyebrow and eye here. Okay. For the nose, I see just a triangular shape. Okay. Simplifying always, not thinking that this is a three-dimensional object, that there's a lot of details, just thinking that there's something made of flat shape. Okay, and I'm just going for those flat shapes, smaller flat shapes. Okay. Okay, let's see. I got the photograph next to my paper, same size, which it makes it easier to compare. Let's see if I got some mistake. Okay, I need to make the head a little bit narrower. Okay, I'm gonna use a bigger brush, this one. Hello, Michael. Hello, Bushed 18. Making everything a bit darker, because for the lights I'm just going to erase here. I'm gonna get the lights. Need to darken up my paper more and more. Squinting, and I'm gonna make this darker again. Here, here. We can see clearly here the cheekbone, the zygomatic bone. Hello, Chris. Now I use smaller brush again. This is just charcoal. At some point I'm gonna start using pastel. Okay, I'm gonna use a stamp. This one. I press a bit here to pick up some charcoal. Always paying attention to proportions. Always measuring. You can pick up any portion, any area of the face, and use it as a unit for measurement. Let's see how tilted is the mandible. I'm squinting and comparing the width, the height. I want to make this a little bit darker. Okay, let's see. I think the width of the face is not okay, but let's continue. I need to darken up more here and there, and after darken up more, getting to darker values, then I'm gonna check out again if the width of the face is okay. Okay, squinting again. Here's darker, 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 dark, light here, light on the nose, on the cheeks. Okay. What I'm doing is basically grouping, you know, lights and shadows. Hello, Lily. Okay, now I'm gonna use pastel powder. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I want some really soft edges, obviously. Yeah. A sharp edge that would be the nose, definitely the nose, the mouth. Okay, or it could be the neck. Yeah. Here, keep the neck sharp. I'm gonna use a pencil. There are a lot of noise out there here where I live in this condo because there are a lot of holidays. I mean, not holidays, but let's say celebration. Tomorrow we celebrate the foundation of the city where I was born, which is on the south, 20 hours from here. Hello, sunny side. Feel free to ask me anything. I mean, there's not many things that to say about materials. You know, my paper is just a regular paper, 160 grams, just sketchbook. I don't use that much. And I always, you know, the same, always paying attention to values, paying attention to proportions. Okay. Notice that, I mean, maybe the width of the face is not okay yet, but I'm slowly just narrowing the face. As I continue working here, I'm sure about, you know, that my drawing is getting better. Okay, I'm gonna start just narrowing the face a bit more. Okay, and always grouping values. It's not that clear, you know, those values here are not that clear, but for sure the nose is getting sunlight. And if the nose is getting sunlight, that means that all the planes of the face that are facing the light source are getting sunlight too. That's why we see light here, 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 and here. Now, one thing about the forehead, the I should see some light on the forehead, but maybe it's just something is casting some shadow on the forehead. That's why I don't see, you know. But that would be pretty normal to see maybe some light here and there. Yeah. Now I'll soften all these strokes because at some point I gotta make the difference between highlights. Always thinking that there's an order on values. This one, for example, the nose usually is the lightest light. You know, if you don't see a highlight, you gotta just darken up more the drawing to the point that when you erase, you see that as a highlight. Okay, if you see it, that's perfect. If you don't see it, just that means that you need to darken up more and more. And which one is gonna be the lightest light? Maybe it's the chin. Okay, okay, something like this. I'm gonna make this darker. Okay, that's darker. And now I erase here. You see more clearly the light. Yeah. I'm molding my kneaded eraser and erase again. We should see something like that, like, you know, a highlight. If you don't see a highlight, that means that all the values around are just too light, and those values are not creating the enough contrast to show light, because we see light basically by darkening up everything around the light, you know, midtones and darker tones and shadows. Hello, Bob. Hello, Marina. I was thinking that uh, I'm gonna keep maybe the eyes kind of blurry. I'm gonna first I got the upper eyelids too, just too dark. I erase here, I erase here. Soften this, and keep the nose sharp. Okay. I use this stamp. Okay, I can keep the eyes pretty blurry. But let's see. That's the idea I have now. But sometimes I just change my plans. But just thinking about the illusion of depth. Okay, when I'm trying to do this sharpening one area, that's not gonna affect just this. That's gonna affect the rest. And when you have something like this, it's kind of blurry because I'm using a brush. If I add definition here, detail, and sharp edges, definitely this is gonna pop forward. Okay. On top of that, if all the values around are darker, a bit darker, I'm not saying that I'm jumping from value number 1 to 10. Let's say like that, and I got the highlights here and here. Okay, I'm squinting and trying to imagine the volume of the face and trying to see if this nose is coming forward. If that's happening, I'm good. Okay, now I'm gonna move to the chin. Okay, maybe the mouth, maybe not the chin, the mouth. And just I keep the eyes. I'm gonna add more details to the eyes, but definitely I'm not gonna make the eyes that dark and not that sharp. That's what I'm thinking right now. But let's see. Maybe I changed my mind. I don't know. I just need to see if that's working. At the end, at the same time, I don't want like see just some sharpness in one area, and that's it. Right now, the feeling I have when I see my own drawing or I see the screen. Okay, if I see the screen, it feels like everything, it's something that happened to the camera. Is out of focus, and just the nose is focused. Okay, and that could be good or not. Hello, Marina. Okay. Let's see. Let's continue. I'm pressing harder to pick up some pastel. Okay. That's something similar here. Okay, I can just make the upper lip a little bit sharper, but the corners of the mouth, I could keep them blurry, a bit blurry. I'm just saying, what I think that's gonna work to create in depth, but I see if that for really works during the process. That's why I could make changes, adjustments, and I could change my plans because we gotta see. I don't know if that what I'm thinking is going to work perfectly here. I gotta control all the values as much as possible to create that. Okay. Hello, hello, Sharon. Hello, Margie. Okay. The same, for example, that I was speaking about, this thing about contrast and all of that. The same that would be, for example, if I make the hair pretty dark here. Okay, dark, dark. And up here, not that dark. But maybe the value is going to be pretty close. But it's not going to be that close, okay? I said maybe. No, not yet. If I keep more difference between this value and the other value. But the thing is, when there is more contrast, like here, or here, for example, what's happening is we create some depth and some perspective. Okay, sharp edge, more contrast, make this area, you know, come forward, less contrast, and blurry edges, make this recede. Which I think that would be pretty nice because we seen him like one, let's say that he's taller than us, that we seen from below. Okay, that means obviously that uh, this part is closer to us. And this is make we can exaggerate that by creating the effect that this is fading away. What about the width of the face? Do you think it's okay? I think it's okay. I'm thinking to darken up more, everything a bit more, the lights. Okay, let's erase the light on the nose. Okay, I would love to see more of this light, just kind of, coming forward. Okay, I'm gonna darken up here. One thing for sure, if I darken up more, round to create a light here, maybe I'm gonna change the shape of the nose. If we change the shape of the nose, that would change the likeness. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna continue. Squinting really hard, trying to make the difference, to see difference between values. If the light is coming from up, hits the nose, hits the cheek bone. There is light coming down on this wrinkle here, on this muscle that's coming down, but it shouldn't be as light as this area. Yeah. Okay. The same for the chin. Okay, another thing I can do is, for example, here have like a sharp edge. Okay. Just there. Here is blurry, obviously. Really soft, lost. The same on this area. I can just make it a little bit sharp here, and then sharp here. Okay, and that is gonna make my intention obviously is trying to kind of add some movement. Okay, that means that you see here and here is kind of moving a little bit. That's the idea. Obviously, when I mean if you follow the logic that when all the edges are sharp, what happens? The image looks pretty stiff, static. Okay, if edges are softer, what should happen is the opposite. Yeah, am I wrong or what? Okay, that's the logic that I'm just thinking about. Okay, I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna work on the eyes. Okay, a little bit more shadow to the nose here. No, let's work on the eyes. We don't see his iris on this eye, no, neither this eye. Now I'm thinking about values. Okay, I gotta keep, this dark, soft, but I should make this, shadow really black, the way that I see on the photograph. Yeah, why not? Okay, but at the same time, that's gonna affect how this thing that I'm trying to create, this illusion of depth, volume. Yeah, definitely. Because if I make, for example, this edge sharp here, which it is, I'm bringing that forward. That's what I want. Okay, we're gonna move this eyelid a little bit up. I'm trying to see some lights here, but always being careful that these lights shouldn't be as bright as the highlight on the nose. That's the part is kind of difficult because there's a lot of adjustments. I erase and then all of a sudden I got the highlight where I don't want a highlight, and I gotta just again kind of darken up and repeat again. Okay, so maybe I should light up the the uh, the the bottom lip a bit more. Okay, I'm gonna darken up more here. Hmm. Okay, I'm gonna. Oh, the ear. Looks the ear is kind of different. It's a different shape. Maybe the neck is too thick. Okay, here too. I'm pressing harder. I want this to be black, black. Okay. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna make the nose darker. Or I'm gonna use pastel. Yeah, because now although I was thinking, I think I have lost a bit of that. I gotta make a difference. This is not black black. You see, black black that would be this, really dark. Now is can you see the difference? Okay, the idea about making this dark is just making this pop forward. Why? Because there is more contrast. Okay, when there is more contrast, we usually our eyes just see that area and think that that's closer to us. That's how our brain works. When something is blurry, our brain thinks, hey, nothing important is happening there, or maybe it's just far away from our point of view. Okay? Hello, Monique. Okay. What else? Okay, I think that's it. Yeah. I'm gonna check out for the last time. What else I can do? Okay, 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 okay. What else? What else? Okay, it's been an hour. I think it's enough for my daily practice. I'll narrow the face a bit more here. Here a bit more too. narrow in the face a bit, just a little bit. Okay, that's it for today. Yeah, I see more things I would love to continue. Details, but I don't. I think it's enough with what I have. I tried for sure that what I tried was really hard to control values. It's not like it's completely about copying the photograph. Okay, because I can see on the photograph, for example, that this area is black, 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 and all the hair is black. Okay, and I see some sharp edges, all sharp edges on the hair. You know, and when it's about practice, it's about trying to control values, and I I couldn't get that. I mean, if I just copy the photograph, that's why making subtle changes. These changes are pretty hard, but I'm trying really hard. For example, I'm gonna explain. Keeping the highlight on the nose is pretty subtle, you know, but I try to keep it here and here. Okay, and then what I do is just knock down the other highlights. But I go over this process, the erase and again darken up and erase again. I'm back and forth about trying to keep those values, going from the lighter one to a bit darker, or less lighter. Okay, the same with shadows. Okay, I keeping this black, like a really dark value, and the eyes are not as black as the nostrils or the mouth. The same way for this shadow. Okay, now I'm thinking, obviously, if I compare with the photograph, I'm thinking like, yeah, let's go and just make it dark, just black. That's gonna look like the photograph perfectly. That's gonna be pretty nice, you know. But my exercise is that trying to control values, and I'm not gonna control values if I just, let's say, I keep all the lights the same or highlights, and all my dark shadows just with one value. That would be like using this one, for example, just that one for here, 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 here. I'm not saying that's not good. I'm saying just sharing what is my exercise. What I think when I just practicing, and not just when just practicing, because obviously I practice this to when I want to a more, let's say, detail, or I spend more time on the drawing, and I want to be more precise, but at the same time I want to tweak little things just to add more volume, and that's gonna be always about that. I wanna see my drawing, okay. I wanna have the feeling that this is rounded. I wanna get the feeling that something is coming forward. Not all over the face is coming forward to me. Not all that I see on the face. Okay, and that is kind of difficult to see. I try and really hard keeping that control, and sometimes I lost control about that, and then again And again, for example, this light here, this light is just in an area that is turning, that is in a different distance to my eye. When the nose has to be a different, it has to be, there's a light, but it shouldn't be as light or bright as the nose. And always that, and that's what I want. When I see my drawing, maybe in a couple of hours, I want to see that. I want to see that I got some control on the values, because that's what I'm thinking, and just and copying the photograph, of course. I see a lot of information on the photograph, you know, and the difficult thing is that I'm trying to obviously make changes based of what on what I want, this value control, and copying the photograph. That's something for sure. That's the tricky part, because as soon as I erase, for example, here, I got this the same value as the nose. Maybe that's what I want, maybe not. And now that I did it, I think I like it, like a bright light. Now I'm not gonna get this bright light all the way to the left or to the right, or the same on the neck. If I do this, because I'm trying to get some detail, I see this pretty light. What I'm gonna do next is just soften that, and if I decide, no, I don't want this to be as bright as the nose, I knock it down, and then the next minute maybe I think, you know what, it's working pretty good that this is coming forward, maybe even more than the nose, and I'm gonna just erase again. Okay, that's part of the process. You do something, you just take it back, let's say, redo it, and it's just that. Okay, when I add more contrast, for example, here I wanted to add really black, because obviously I want more contrast here. I don't want the same black I have here on the eyes, or this area on the eyebrows, and not on the hair. For that reason, for what I mentioned about creating the illusion of depth, or adding some perspective and using values for that. More contrast coming forward, less contrast, it's fading away. If I got that, it's pretty good. If I not, definitely I'm gonna try again and again and again until I get good at that. For example, here that would be a nice spot to just have really sharp edges. Yeah. Okay, then that's it for today. I go live daily. I usually on live daily, from Monday to no, not Wednesdays, Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays, Fridays, just daily practice and daily practices. And you know what? I go over the same again, because this thing about value control is always the same. That's gonna happen on every drawing or painting that you're gonna do. Okay. And I love to try to push this a bit, trying to control that more than just copying the photograph. I try to do that all the time, but sometimes I see a photograph and I think it's just perfectly amazing, and I don't want to change anything. I just copy that. And sometimes I could even just think about making more changes. Like, for example, I could in this case just darken up more here on the edge of the face, to exaggerate this illusion that the face is turning to both sides, and making this area just coming forward. I would love to do that, but that affect every change that you think that is about values, that is gonna affect the likeness. Okay, now that you that's a really tough decision to make. You do something, you sacrifice something, maybe. Yeah. Think about it. Okay, I try to do it a bit, not that much, but I'm trying to add more realism. Applying the things that I know about depth, about perspective, about adding the illusion of three-dimensionality, about edges, about values. Not all the values are the same. About contrast and all of those things. Okay, take care, you all. See you all if somebody wants to join, I got my Patreon account where we have some live sessions every Thursdays. Not live like really live. I mean live through Zoom. Okay, where we all draw from an image. Okay. Take care, everybody. See you all next time. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you all here. Okay. If you're new to my channel, obviously I appreciate if you subscribe to my channel, if you like it, obviously. And don't forget to press the like button before you go. Okay. And as usually, I'm gonna stay a bit more. No, just that. Okay. Bye, everybody.